And the first thing we're going to talk about off the top is this. Now, I sometimes get flack from some people when a new rumor gets out there. Yeah, it's true, Rob. It's true. You'd think that nobody ever criticizes me, but it's true. It happens from time to time. But I have taken some flack from some people before because a lot of times, rumors go around. I won't talk about it. A lot of people are asking about it. We'll address it and say. Now, what I'll often do is I tell people, look, when there's a rumor out there and y'all want to talk about it, make sure you don't just read it on the site you're reading it on. Follow the source. Where does it come from? And then I will often say, look, when you follow all these websites talking about it, but they all say they got it from the same place, and it's not exactly the most reliable place, and you got to keep that in mind. So yesterday, there was a story came out that everybody emailed me about and everybody wanted to talk about this report that came out that Planet of the Apes, the new one that Disney was going to do, was actually going to be a reboot. And it was covered on a lot of sites. And the first thing I said yesterday on yesterday's show is like, look, everybody, I always tell you follow the source. So I followed the source, and it turns out every one of these news outlets that are running this story are all getting it from the same place. It's a little site that I've never heard of. That doesn't mean it's not a wonderful site. I'm just saying it's just not one that I've happened to have heard of, called Discussing Film. I said, and so you got to keep in mind, this information is not coming from the Hollywood Reporter or Deadline or Variety or CBS or whatever. This is coming from a site that I've never personally heard of, and that's where everybody's getting it from. So take that with a giant asterisk. And again, I caught some criticism yesterday for bringing that up. Well, here's why. Here's why I always think it's important when discussing this stuff, and it's still fun to discuss, but when discussing this stuff, why I feel it's important to mention that, where did the information come from? Because the director, Rob, of the new, of the film, has come out and said this. It's never been easier for film journalists to actually get in touch with the actual people who actually know, but maybe it's the point to not fact check these days. Regardless, don't worry, I won't ruin the surprises, but it's safe to say Caesar's legacy will continue. And this is, of course, coming from Wes Ball. Now, first thing, side note, Wes, I appreciate your words and saying it's never been easiest to get in touch with the actual people. It's easy to say that, but it's 95% of the time when journalists do reach out, we never hear back. That's fine. That's fine. You've got more important things to do, like making the films we love. I get it. That's perfectly fine. But just point of order here, Wes. It's not that easy to just reach out. Oh yeah, hey, what you doing? And expect an answer. That doesn't actually really work. But I appreciate that because you're doing more important things. So no problems for me. But Rob, it's this exact kind of situation. Which is why I always feel like when we're talking about rumors and stuff, we need to pause and say, let's follow the sources. Where does it come from? And point out that this is coming from maybe not necessarily the most reliable place, not necessarily an unreliable, but not necessarily the most reliable. And there's that. Now, I said yesterday, Rob, that I would personally be perfectly fine if they did come out and reboot it. I thought, it kind of makes sense. Caesar was the centerpiece of the last trilogy of films. And, we know how War of the Planet of the Apes ended. So it would almost feel, I was perfectly good with the idea of them moving forward. But it sounds like they want to actually move ahead and continue with what the story was. Rob, what do you think about this and then continuing on with the existing story we've gotten already? How do you feel?
Well, it gives me... Look, I talked about this yesterday. I love the Planet of the Apes franchise. I grew up with the Planet of the Apes franchise. And I like the fact that this new, I call it the Caesar trilogy, sort of, it fit in a loose continuity with the original Apes films. And it showed us an era we'd never seen before. And they even referenced the original Planet of the Apes in Rise of the Planet of the Apes,
yes,
the first Caesar movie. And I really like that. And you pointed out something yesterday about the final war between humanity and the apes, like the Forbidden Zone getting nuked. The part where Charlton Heston says, you really finally did it. You blew it up. God damn you all to hell. We have to see that war, and leading up. I mean, we know what's happened on the West Coast, or at least in California, with the Caesar trilogy. I mean, there's a big bad world out there that we really don't know what's been going on. So I like this idea that I'm glad that they'll continue on the Apes saga and continue on Caesar's legacy, whatever that means, because there's thousands of years between the original Planet of the Apes and the Caesar trilogy. So there's There's a lot of story to cover, and I'm glad that we're going to see that. And it'll be interesting to see who rises up to lead the apes in the wake of the power vacuum left by Caesar. So if that's indeed what they're going to do, and it sounds like they have an idea, like the director clearly has a plan,
yes,
or at least seems to know, and that's really exciting. So for me, I'm like, bring it on, man. You know, and Andy Serkis can play another ape. I mean, it's not like you can't change his voice and do motion capture and they make it look like it's a different ape. I mean, whether it's Terry Notary or whether it's Terry Notary, who did the motion capture for the dog in Call of the Wild even, but Terry Notary, who's done so much great motion capture work and movement work. He even helped Brandon Routh to be Superman. To come back with Andy Serkis, recreating another ape. I love it, man. As long as we're getting more Apes movies and they're going to continue that story that sort of adds to the whole thing, I'm in. I can't wait.
I was very clear. I actually thought it would make sense. It makes sense to move on and kind of reboot it and cover different stuff, in a post-Caesar world. But at the same time, I'm perfectly good if they want to go ahead and continue on this story without Caesar. I will admit I will miss Caesar a lot because Caesar was, he was the centerpiece of these films for me. He was the main reason I really enjoyed watching these films, but that doesn't mean there aren't other ways to make these films really enjoyable and other characters to focus on. And like you said, Rob, really focusing on a new chapter of the story. So this could work as well. So the question here is, guys, what do you think about this? About Wes Ball coming out, clarifying we're going to continue on the legacy of Caesar. You feeling good about it? You're not feeling good about it? What are your thoughts? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know what you think. All right. With that down,